Like, I'm pretty simple, I'm pretty easy, but I like to be treated fairly in a relationship. Yeah. Not like I buy you something, you buy me something. I don't care. Just fair, you know? I don't know what that looks like. But you know when it's not fair, you know, yeah. I don't know what that looks like, actually.
In some one way, when I grew up, showing love is through work. And I thought I was doing the right thing. So I was working hard, as men do. Putting food on the table, working hard. But the biggest lesson that I learned from Donna was this, I'm not in Samoa. She's from a different country, and what she needs was a little bit more show of affection. You know, taking her for a walk, taking her to dinner, taking her shopping, things like that. And so I learned a little lesson anyway, not just working around the house and making sure I'm at work, putting food on the table and so on, but just to show love through other means. Not the way that I perceive love, but the way others will want to be loved. And so it's a big lesson for me. Even down to listening skills, which I'm really bad at. And not trying to solve any things and have all the answers, but sometimes my wife just wanted to be heard, and she'll talk 35,000 words, and then I'll just listen, and that's showing love and respect, and it's quite nice. It's quite nice, not trying to solve anything. And it's a big lesson for me, and I love it.
I think the way I'd know if she was mad at me, and this is like the number one kind of tool in a man's tool set to figure it out, is like, hey, are you all good? And if she says like, I'm fine, then you have to like really know the tones of I'm fine. If she says I'm fine really fast while not looking at you, that could mean she's angry, or she's like, not, there's something on her mind. It doesn't necessarily mean she's angry. It just could be she's concerned with something, you know? Maybe she just wants to decompress, which a lot of guys want to do. Because crazily enough, she asks me a lot of the time, are you all good? And I'd say I'm fine. And then she'd be like, something's on your mind. And I'd be like, yeah. And it's just that willingness to talk. I guess it's weird because like there's no generic kind of blanket you could put over it because everyone's different.
When things aren't going too well with me and my partner, I always try to take a second to think. You got to ride the good times with the bad, and I try to reflect that no relationship's perfect, so I definitely have that in mind. But I guess we just I try to be honest with her, and she's very good at being honest with me. But to go on further on that is that probably like some of the things at the start of our relationship, I guess that would bug me, I let slide, like because I found it hard to pull her up on it. And since I have been honest on those little things, it's helped our relationship a lot. And it's helped me inside, like it makes me be better around her because I'm not annoyed that she hasn't made the bed and I'm a constant bed maker or something like that, you know. And it's really the little things. And I've realised that if you can get those little things out of the way and you can be honest about them, then that will save half your arguments.
You know, I feel like you can be open and honest with someone when you really trust them, when you know that their intentions are good, you know, when you feel like they're there for you. And it's not always easy to open up. I mean, even me and my wife, we still, you know, sometimes struggle to you know, get the right words out or just to start the conversation. I mean, but once we get over that hump and bring things out, then it's like, oh, you know, that's why, you know, you've been a bit cranky lately, or that's why, you know, this is happening. So I think it's having that trust in someone and to know that, you know, they've got your back. They're not going to do you any harm or, you know, use it in the wrong way. They're there to help you and be there for you.
Everyone knows that when they need to be honest, when it might hurt, you have a choice. You either do it or you don't. And then how you communicate that, and in the calm of emotions is the best way to communicate it, not in the heat of emotions. So, yeah.
Yeah. When you're arguing and you're trying to fix it and you're still heated, like it just can't work. Through my experience, so a bit of like time out, and just communicating and listening. Putting the verse, oh, that's one. Listen. I use my tardiness. Listen to her point, or like their point of view, and yeah, and show understanding.
It really is an individual effort to find the value in the other person and figure out whether or not it's worth getting to that other end. And that's how you know you love them. If you love them that much, it's worth the fight. So you'd be willing to kind of look at their point of view, and you'd be willing to let them look at yours. And I guess that's the hallmark of a good couple. My mum and dad have constantly argued over their 30-plus year marriage, but for some reason, even as bad as these arguments have ever been, they've always found some sort of resolution, and they love each other more for it. And they have like a 30-year track record of arguments, so they could always look back and think, remember that time we argued about that thing? And you're like, oh yeah, that was pretty funny, isn't it? And you're like, yeah, you know what? I love you. And you're like, yeah, I love you too. It's kind of like those moments. They'll never say it like that, but I guess that's how it is. And I think the idea is you find the connection in that, the idea that you can, like, you're willing to look at each other and say that even after all this time, it's worth it if I'm with you. And it's one of the most beautiful things. But then you fall out of love too, right? You fall out of love. Maybe you look at the other person, you think it's not worth it anymore. And that's probably one of the more tragic stories. And yeah. Yeah. I say that because I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, some bridges I think probably can't be built. I think sometimes, yeah, I feel like there's times when you can kind of make up or can kind of find a solution, but the hardest times are when those bridges can't be built, even though you want it to be built so badly. But yeah, it's pretty hard to realise that, and yeah, I feel like probably, yeah, that's probably the hardest thing, kind of ripping the plaster off.
Yeah, I think probably when you're sort of feeling unhealthy in love, I think it's probably when you're hiding things, when you're sort of feeling like you can't be open, when you're feeling like you can't have tough conversations with each other, when you're feeling like, you've got to sort of hold things in yourself because you don't want to start arguments or you don't want to start anything like that. I think that's when things start, compacting on each other and becoming unhealthy.
Yeah, I have been, my previous relationship, I was in, I guess it became unhealthy because I personally probably didn't want to be there, but I felt as though I couldn't break up with this girl, and that created it to be quite unhealthy. Well, and it created myself to be really unhealthy as well. It was probably something I kept going for a wee while and probably too long, and and the biggest thing for me was like I was so scared of breaking up with her and hurting her feelings, but in hindsight I should have just done it from the start and been honest and probably not wasted 6 months to a year of both our time. Yeah.
Like you grow up being dependent, on your parents, and then you want to leave home and you want to be independent. But then you find someone you're like compatible with, and so then you're codependent. And so if you're with them for like a substantial amount of time, that codependence grows and grows, and then if that's taken away from you, that's a substantial part of your life taken away from you, so that's pretty scary. Losing someone you love.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest upsets of my life up to this point. Not being able to sustain a really what looked like a really good relationship, and with so much promise, and my family was there to pick me up. So love really did save me. The kind of love that is quite nurturing, and it's all right, mate. Come over here. What's great about love is like the love from my family is like they remind you not of like they remind you of who you are as a person, and they really sort of bring you back home again. It's like because when you fall in love, you go to a faraway place. It's like you've invested so much of yourself into this other person. Once they're gone, it's like where are you? And then they're there to bring you back. And I felt like that was kind of like the story that was going on, and my family really sort of brought me back home, and it was really cool. I'm forever indebted to them for what they did for me.
People will hurt, and that's part of life. But only now do I realise the aspect of nurturing the end of a relationship as well as nurturing the start. Which I haven't been very good at nurturing the end of things. So it's pretty cool. But that keeping the love alive at the same time, if you're in the right situation where you're actually able to grow together, I think it needs to be so much because you've got to grow. You've got to grow to keep that love alive. Love doesn't just stay there and that's it. You're going to have to get to those inner recesses of people's minds, into their soul. You're sharing space together. You need to be able to understand them as much as they understand you and realise that it's not all about you anymore. And that, if you want it to be all about you, I reckon, sweet, that's cool. Do that, but I guess you just can't do that in a relationship that's going to grow. But I just reckon there needs to be some really big things that happen. There's got to be a passion. Has to be passion there. A passion to want to get ahead together, a passion to want to make love together. You also have to be willing to work together, which means that sometimes somebody's going to be a bit up, somebody might be a bit down, and the person that's up has a role to pick the other person up, to bring them up to their level. Sometimes the man will go more into a feminine part, and the woman's role is to help him become more masculine, just as a man's role is to help her feel more feminine. And I mean that by understanding that the femininity and masculinity is both part of being a man and also being a woman. But I believe there's like a yin and yang, there's a balance. And if something gets out of balance, it's your duty as partners to help each other get back on track. And I think you need all of that. And you probably need a whole lot more. I feel like I should put on Tony Robbins just because that man's got it going on. But I think there's so much to a relationship to keep the love going. It's never static. And if you think it's going to stay static, then I think it's this bit of self-reflection that needs to go on. And it's okay too.